Hey, the Mike Rogers Show here today, and today we have part 2 of our interview with world famous actress Mariel Hemingway and world famous, what are you, an entrepreneur? Melissa Yamaguchi. Yay! So, Mariel, you were telling us yesterday about projects you're working on or new movies or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I do have a movie that's out right now called On Sacred Ground, which is about the kind of there was a pipeline going through the Midwest right before COVID. I want to say 2017, 18. And it was, anyway, this is about that struggle. I've got a very small part in that, but it's a wonderful movie. And then I'm producing actually several television shows. One is a limited series based on my grandfather's book, A Movable Feast, which, Ernest Hemingway, his book, A Movable Feast. And then there's also a story based on my grandfather in Cuba. It's kind of a Hemingway universe, and then goes to me and my sisters in the 60s, 70s, and 80s called Sisters Hemingway. That's the working title. And then I've also got another project that I'm doing with my significant other. And so I'm doing a lot of things. And then, Melissa and I are doing our podcast, and we're always thinking of new ideas and new ways to get the mental health message out there. We're even thinking about trying to come up with a television show for that.
Absolutely. Oh, so Melissa, is this Out Comes the Sun podcast? Is this once a week or once a month, or what is it?
It's every Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
We film it once a week, and it films. Well, it doesn't have to be Thursday, but we film it. We film it once a week. It airs once a week. And we prided ourselves on the fact that it's 30-minute segments, and the only reason that we elected to do that is because oftentimes the guests that we have on are in motion. So for us to try to tether them for 30 minutes, we found before more than 30 minutes before was a struggle for us. So people were like, anxious to carve out that much time. So we've relegated it to 30 minutes, and we will oftentimes if we do 1 hour segments, it's usually 2 guests back to back, and it seems to work out beautifully. What I wanted to say, I want to share something with you that I think is important and I don't want to hammer the message too much, but I do want to say, Mariel and I interviewed a gentleman who is in charge of the police academy, like the police force, not the academy, but the police force, and dealing with them with their mental health. And then we dealt with another gentleman who works with the United States, kind of a director of the behavioral health of firefighters, I should say. And in dealing with those two industries in particular, firefighting and police work, detective work, police work, we found that the fear of stepping forward and saying, I've seen a lot, I've gone through a lot, this is hard for me, was so prevalent that the rates of suicide were increasing. And a lot of that is that when people are struggling in their workplace, it's in particular in the medical industry, certainly the firefighting industry, police force work, any work where they are exposed visually, auditorially, sensorially to any kind of trauma or any really painful situation. The pressure on them for their own sense of peace to not take that home. If you and I have a bad day at work, we may tell our significant other, our mate that night, had a rough day at work.
No, I never do that.
Well, for a guy who doesn't have any junk food in his life, I would believe that. We don't want to unload on our partners, right? But it's not too, we might a little. Well, let's take that want and magnify it to these different industries that are exposed constantly on a continuous beat to trauma. So then if he or she elects to go forward to their superiors and say, I'm struggling a little bit, they oftentimes will get pushed back to a desk job if they're on leave. They may lose benefits. They may not be available for promotion, because then we still got this fear of, I don't want to be seen as quote unquote crazy. So they swallow it. And
they also worry about losing their jobs, especially in those in the, like that's more in tune with what's going on in Japan.
Losing their rank, losing their pay, losing their status, and bringing embarrassment to their loved ones. So so what happens energetically when you continue to swallow your pain, swallow your truth, and not speak it, it begins to affect the body. It physically begins to wear you down. And so this is another reason that's so important for us with the Mariel Hemingway Foundation and our exposure of different treatments and different industries and what they're struggling with through the Out Comes the Sun podcast. We spoke to a pair of happened to be Japanese veterinarians, and they were sharing with Mariel and me that veterinarians suffer one of the highest levels within the medical industry.
Highest rates in suicide. Yeah.
Really?
Suicide ideation.
Yes.
Because and talking about the pressure that's on them because they're dealing with people's beloved animals.
Oh, right.
The cost for surgery is so high that people will haggle with them and then get mad at them if they can't afford to pay it, and it goes on and on. But it's important that we talk about it and that we remove the pain. This is why it's so important. Minimize as much as we can the pain. This is why we
and the realization that everyone's in the same. Like we're all in this world together. We're all dealing with something, and kind of making it so that we can all kind of join hands. It's kind of getting that sense of community that it's okay to ask for help. That's hard for people. Just the mere, sometimes I just talk about like, just find somebody that you can tell your story to.
Yeah.
That's it. Right?
Yeah.
Just feel safe enough to say, hey, this is my story. I'm, like it causes me so much pain. But what I have noticed with sharing my own story is that when people tell their story, it's the first step into finding their solution, right? It's kind of that, okay, I did that. The big hurdle of like going over the past. I see it didn't kill me, because sometimes we fear that going over those memories is gonna like they're gonna feel the same. It's gonna traumatize again, but it doesn't. Memories can't hurt you. They're just memories. They're just pigments in the brain.
Choices and the shows that Mariel's working on and producing and the movies that she participates in. Certainly, she's an actress and she can take a job, But when she's working on her own work, the shows that she shared with you, she's producing, you'll find the theme throughout all of them relates back to mental wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, and however she moves the rocks around in the story, it still comes down to the story of a revelation of getting better. And that's the one thing that she has kept throughout all of her projects.
Yeah, something you just mentioned, Mariel, about like memories. When I was very sick and I couldn't even get out of bed, and then I started taking this medicine, and then I got okay. The one thing that worried me, I feared going back to not being going back to being depressed, because I don't like to take medicine at all.
No, I know. You're like me.
So if the doctor tells me to take a medicine, I'm very much against it. And I knew that if I kept taking it, it would. I didn't know, but I kind of thought, okay, this is going to be bad. If I keep taking it, I'll get hooked on it. So I've got to stop taking it. It wasn't 4 days. It was 4 days I got better. Maybe 10 months I took the medicine.
Yeah, fair enough. Here's another thing I talk about with mental health is taking responsibility. People, especially in the society we live in, we look for a doctor that's going to give us a pill, and that pill is going to be the end all solution, right? But I don't have to do any work, right? But that's not what mental health is about. Mental health is about taking responsibility that you've got an issue, number one, and then looking at it as, look, this is my life, my brain. I need to do some deep thinking and digging into my own physiology, my mental state. So I've got to figure out my solution, because it's different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
You know that you're not the person who's going to go for the drugs forever, right?
Yeah.
It gave you a break and it pulled you out of that dark night of the soul, is what because I've been there, so I do understand it. When you come out of it, for weeks, maybe even months, you worry that you're going to go back there, right? You're like, oh my God, I just don't want to. I pray that I don't wake up tomorrow feeling the way that I felt, even if it was a long time ago. So it's a scary thing, but taking responsibility for your mental health, that's a big part of, I think it's a big part of physical health. You got, it's like you got to eat well, you got to exercise, you got to do those things for your physical body, but it also works for your mind as well. And that's taking responsibility for yourself. There's not one pill that's going to solve everybody's problems. And we're in a society, we've got fast-paced technology, we've got, we can order things online and it comes within seconds, whatever. That's, we've got to slow ourselves down so that you realize that the body is more archaic than these technologies that we have. And slowing it down and saying, okay, let me look at different aspects of my life. Where can I make changes? Where can I shift? Where can I do something a little bit different that's going to create harmony and peace in my life?
Yeah. The other thing, I don't want to harp on this either, but the other thing that's really bad about like depression, or even like something like cancer or whatever, we say, if one person in a family gets cancer, everybody has cancer. Everybody is depressed because of this thing. So there's a responsibility.
Well, you brought up something interesting, because how about when somebody gets cancer? You're so right. It causes depression.
That's
because
right.
People are so scared.
Yeah.
And like you said, everybody gets it. It's not just, the person with the cancer cells. It's the entire, it's your community, it's your family, because everybody's worried. So everybody's got a piece of this. And that's why I really feel like mental health is such a community thing. It's like, if you realize you're not alone and you can join hands with your partner or your friends or, whoever you're closest to, and say, hey, let's get through this together. I've got it, but I need your help. And together, and you can pull people out of those places, but because you're a part of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to commend you for stepping forward and taking care of yourself, because I think taking care of yourself is selfless. It feels like it's a selfish act when you're just taking care of yourself, but the more that you can take care of yourself and be healthy, the more joy and peace you can bring your family. Because as Mariel said, when one of us is not well, if one of our family members becomes very gravely ill or temporarily ill, we worry, we fret, and we're nervous for them. And the minute they begin to get healthier, whether it's through help of medicine or through help of therapy or through self-care, it takes a little bit of a burden off our back and pain, and it lifts. So it's very selfless to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, that's really great what you're doing. And when we're done with this chat, I want to talk to you about something that I think I can help. I don't know if I can help, but if I can help you, and I think that
I know you can help.
your service would be very good in Japan. So maybe
I think so too.
Get a Japanese partner or something and translate things into Japanese, make things more localized here, and just expand.
I would love that.
The service.
I would love that.
So, but we have to move on, because I don't want to be taking more than 40 minutes of your time. Mariel, when you were a kid and you would go to school and the teacher would say, is John Smith here, is Mariel Hemingway? Is your name Hemingway? Do you get that a lot? Like, let's say the police stop you for like going a little bit too fast. So they say like, okay, come on, what's your name? No, come on, tell me the truth. Come on.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that there's two answers, because when you're talking about when I went to school, I'll have you know that I went to Ernest Hemingway grade school.
Oh my
Which was
God. Oh, that's weird. That's weird. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it was no easy feat to be like a little kid handing in, you're in 5th grade handing in a paper, and they're looking at it like, like it's going to be something, extraordinary. And I'm 11 thinking, I don't think this is really going to be extraordinary. But so that was a bit of a challenge. But then, well, it's different now. Now that I'm a little bit older, I don't get all of the cops are younger, but I used to be able to get away with a lot of speeding tickets because I would be forgiven, but not so much anymore because all the cops are pretty young.
I would definitely have written you a ticket, and then I'd say, sign here, please. Yeah, write your name. I'd have your signature. I got Ernest Hemingway's granddaughter's signature.
That's awesome.
So in 1976, you were in the movie Lipstick, right?
Yes, I was.
And you were 14 years old? 13?
I was 13 13. I turned 14 on the set, I think. Yeah. And
you were nominated as Best Newcomer for the Golden Globe Award.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was
That's
pretty
amazing.
And I had no idea. I didn't even know what that meant. Like I didn't know what a Golden Globe was. And then 2 years later, I had done Manhattan. 2 or 3 years later, I'd done Manhattan. And I got nominated for an Academy Award. I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what's an Academy Award? And I ended up at, the Academy Awards in a white dress. I think I looked like a bride, like I was marrying the person that I took there. But I had no idea. I was so young that I really didn't understand the whole Hollywood business. But anyway.
So your friends, your schoolmates or whatever, they would hear this news, right? And
yeah,
maybe they didn't know either, but did they start treating you differently, or like, oh my God, she's super famous?
Well, what's really interesting is that I grew up in a small town in Idaho, the same small town that my partner and I moved back to 2 years ago. And it was such a small town and everybody knew everyone. And, I went to a school, my graduating class was 9 people, 9 kids.
Oh.
So, yeah. So it was tiny. And so nobody thought I was anything but Mariel, and I had horrible nicknames and whatever. And I was on the ski team. So I lived in which was great for me. It was healthy because I grew up in a small town where I knew everyone. Like people were like, they were so close. They were like relatives. So that in some ways that was good, but in some ways it was like, I kept thinking, because I was a bit insecure as a kid, I kept thinking, well, maybe I'll come back and they'll treat me differently. But of course they didn't, because they knew me. They knew me as this insecure little girl. So the only way to be different was to go out into the big world, go to New York City. I moved to New York City when I was 16 after making Manhattan, because I wanted to kind of be a little bit unknown. So I was known in my hometown, but not because I'm a celebrity, but because it was a small town. Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to go to a big city and just be kind of invisible.
Wow. So wait. So, but though you moved to New York, and then
yes,
were you doing acting and things like that?
Yes, it was right after I was 16 years old. It was right after I made Manhattan, and I thought I want to move to. I loved making Manhattan, first of all, and I think a lot of the reason, a lot of the reason I moved there was because my household was so, getting back to mental health, it was traumatic. My mother had cancer. My father had heart disease. They drank too much. There was a lot of kind of turmoil. And as much as I loved my family, I was my mother's primary caregiver up to 16 years old. From 10 to 16, while she had cancer, I took care of her, and it was a lot. it was a lot to take on as a
Mhm.
kid. So I think I was trying to kind of get relief by moving to
Yeah.
New York. You know what I mean? Anyway,
Yeah.
we do
So
what we do.
how about you, Melissa? When you were a child, did you have a happy childhood or?
I did. I had a mother who's very politically active and very culturally active. So a lot of friends and musicians would come into. I'm from Oklahoma, and
Mhm.
a lot of friends and musicians would come into Oklahoma, and my mom would invite them over for dinner, or they'd spend the night. And so I was around celebrity musicians, not really knowing who. Again, not really aware of who they were, but Sly Stone or Joni Mitchell or people coming into, having my mom's food or
What? Joni Mitchell came to your house for dinner?
Right? I know, so cool.
Are you kidding me?
I was a little kid, but I didn't grow up. I grew up after we left Oklahoma City. I'm the youngest of three. My older brother, the middle child, was born deaf, and so my parents moved him to get him to some better schooling for deaf. And so towns, and then we moved to a very, very small town. So much similar to what Mariel's upbringing, everybody knew everything, and even in the local paper, they had a column called "We Saw." As in, we saw Melissa at the grocery store. Well, there was zero privacy, and it was living in a town of Norman Rockwell's, phone call. Everybody's sharing.
Oh yeah.
So when I left and didn't turn back. I didn't look back. There's a very small smattering handful of people with whom I'm still in contact. Not because my childhood wasn't good. I loved my childhood. Grandparents had farms, and we were on the farm all the time, living out there in the summers. And so I grew up in that environment, a very healthy environment, but the invasiveness was overwhelming for me. So that's why I was happy to leave and come out to California.
So now, Melissa, you're living in California.
Yes.
Mariel, you're living in Idaho?
Idaho. Yeah, I'm actually out in California right now because we did a show with Jeremiah. Melissa, Jeremiah, and I did a show yesterday, which was really, really fun. So
do you come from Idaho to California once a week to do the show?
No. I came out. No, I came out actually. I came out for meetings and other things, and I come once a month. I have two daughters who live out here in California. My eldest daughter is pregnant, and she's due in March. So
congratulations.
So I keep coming out, and by March we're going to come and stay here for 2-3 months.
Wow, that's cool.
To be close to our grandchild.
So let me tell you guys an announcement. I became a grandfather last night for the first time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my daughter.
Congratulations.
Yeah. She called me up. I was sleeping, and she's like, "Daddy, the baby was born." And I was like, "Okay, well, call your mom and tell her, okay?"
Congratulations, that's beautiful.
Oh, that's so cool.
Is
she in the States, or is
no,
she?
She's living in Germany.
Oh wow.
My kids, they're kind of like me because I left. I don't know if you guys know where Ventura is.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I lived in
Korea, so I know where Ventura is.
Yeah, so I lived in Ventura most of my life, and worked down in LA, but then left in 1983 to move to Japan.
Wow.
And I've been here since. I love it here.
I bet.
It's got warts. It's got warts and some problems, but basically the cops aren't beating people's heads in. People aren't arguing about politics, and it's just more peaceful for me.
I agree.
I totally get it.
I get it too.
So, okay. So, anyway, so now you guys are doing the podcast, Out Comes the Sun. Are you also doing spiritual cinema, Mariel?
Oh, spiritual cinema circle. I haven't done that for a few years, but that was a wonderful experience. I got to interview some of the great kind of spiritual teachers and leaders at the time, from Louise Hay to Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, and just some cool people that really had some amazing insight in the world. That was fun. I loved doing that. That's
Okay.
no longer around, sadly.
Okay, so but you're doing Out Comes the Sun. We want to promote that, right? And
Out Comes the Sun. Yes.
and your current movie is called what?
On Sacred
On
Ground.
Sacred Ground. I think I've seen that movie. I run a film festival in Japan. And
Oh, wow.
is that film produced by some famous Hollywood guy? What's his name? Is it? Or was it the Indies film that was the original? Because it seems to me, I've heard this title before. A couple of years ago, they entered it into the film festival. It got an award, it won, and we didn't screen it because they said they couldn't screen it because they're about to do some big movie deal about it. So I'm not sure. Anyhow, okay, well, it looks like Mariel has frozen, Melissa. So it's up to me and you to say goodbye, and then after after we say goodbye, I want to talk to you guys about something. Okay?
Absolutely.
So Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi, thank you so much. Thank you.
And this is love you, bye. It's not too late.
Mata ne.